The planned protest by Reverend Terry Jones outside a mosque in Dearborn on hold tonight, but the chaos continued outside the courthouse when Jones chose briefly to go to jail instead of paying a $1 bond. Time for a special edition of Let It Rip. On the panel tonight, the man who has the tough job of balancing the right of free speech with concerns over public safety, the mayor of the great city of Dearborn, John B. Jack O'Reilly Jr. What about Muslim, who served in the U.S. Navy, who's now executive director of the Council of American Islamic Relations, Dawood Walid. Next to him, a man who's done it all in court. For 20 years, he was the prosecutor from Macomb County. Now in private practice, he handles a wide range of civil and criminal cases. Attorney Carl Marlink. And of course, Fox 2's one-man legal team, the most energetic man on TV, Charlie Langton. We thank you all for being here. Mr. Mayor, let's begin with you.
All right.
Pastor Jones is out of jail tonight. We don't know where he is, but ordered by the judge to stay away from the mosque for 3 years. I'm not so sure it's over, and I'm not so sure you won.
Oh, and it isn't about winning or losing. I mean, for me, for the last 3 weeks, my focus has been on having him come to town and he and everyone else be able to go away and do their business afterward with no harm. So our concern was simply that we wouldn't have any incident that would jeopardize either him or anyone else in the community. So that was pretty much the focus we've been working with.
Dawood, you're a devout Muslim, and yet you were one of the first people to support Reverend Jones in allowing him to protest outside the mosque. Why?
Well, let me first say that I think that Terry Jones is a complete charlatan, an ignoramus, and I would have preferred not to have him come to our state and to Dearborn to begin with. In saying that, I think that one of the issues that was used to try to block him from protesting in front of the mosque, I believe, was bogus, and that was in what the prosecutor of Wayne County put forward, that if he came and protested in front of the mosque, that there could be a murderous type of event or a riot similar to what happened in Afghanistan with the United Nations building when there was an unfortunate situation where some UN workers died. I know the Dearborn community very well. I'm part of the Muslim community. I know we've been here for almost a century. We're completely law-abiding, tax-paying citizens, totally peaceful. We've had peaceful interfaith rallies, gatherings, and I don't think in my heart of hearts, in my mind of minds, that anyone in our community would have gone to try to kill or maim Mr. Jones.
Well, you heard Dawood say that perhaps the prosecutor overreached in this case. You're the former Macomb County prosecutor. Do you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, I agree completely that this wasn't overreaching, that we silenced a fool, but at what cost to our freedom. I mean, this man should have been allowed to speak. Everybody could see how ignorant he was. I talked to him briefly in the green room last night. He talked about a New Testament and the Quran. He had no idea what he was talking about. This is a book that he put on trial. He didn't even read it. I mean, if you allow this man to talk long enough, he sinks himself. And so I think that the Wayne County prosecutor should have stayed away. And I also think that the statute that was used was just squeezed into a place where it did not fit. I mean, you can only do what you did if you have proof that this person made a direct threat against another person or the property of another. You can't jail a person for what somebody might do in reaction to that person's speech. I think this is a bad day for the First Amendment.
Charlie, you would agree with him. And is it constitutional for the judge in this case to tell Terry Jones to stay away from the mosque for 3 years?
I don't think so. I think this statute, when this statute was enacted, Abraham Lincoln was the president. I mean, this statute is older than a lot of people here. I mean, but it's not right. Just think about this. The jury came back and said, okay, it is likely that Terry Jones, if he speaks, will disturb the peace. Okay, all right, okay. So then the judge is going to set some kind of a bond, and if Terry Jones doesn't pay the bond, he goes to jail? He didn't speak yet. I have no problem if Terry Jones speaks and he causes a riot. Let's burn down the mosque. Let's trample something. I don't like that. But if he did that, then you jail the guy. But not before. There was no evidence in this record at all. I was there for the whole trial that suggests that Terry Jones would have done anything today in Dearborn.
In fact,
Nothing.
Mr. Mayor, Pastor Jones told us on this very program, Let It Rip, last night, he had no intention of burning the Quran, no intention of insulting the Prophet Muhammad. He was simply here to protest against what he calls radical Islam. So on what grounds did you intend to arrest him?
Well, we weren't. And here's the mistake you're making and everybody else did. We never intended to arrest him. We're evaluating the site he chose. And of course, he didn't choose it originally. The Order of the Dragon in Michigan near Marlette chose the site originally and the date. He didn't originate this event.
And to explain to the viewers, this is a group that supports causes like Terry Jones against Islam. Go ahead.
Right. So that's the group that picked the date and the place. But the place cannot support any kind of event because the only public property is the right-of-way for Ford Road, which is grass that's maintained for drainage and for people if the cars have to pull off the road for some reason. The rest of it's all private property, meaning it's privately owned, and so there's not one legal parking space in the entire within a half mile of this site. So those were the things we're evaluating. How many people are coming, and what could be the impact, including on the property owners along Alter Road.
But why is it Terry Jones's problem, though?
Well,
if he can walk a half a mile to protest, what's the problem?
Well, the problem is whether he's going to do the right thing or not, and that's what I said. Is we never had any intention of whether we would be actually arresting him or not, and I've said that publicly every time that we have no way of knowing what will happen. We can only react to what he does.
But you seem to be saying, frankly, and I think everybody on this panel is saying, if we had simply allowed him to speak, no matter how distasteful, no matter how repugnant his words may have been, this would have been over.
It might have or not. But when Westboro Church came to this site, which they did, and they were also illegal.
And you gave them a permit.
No, we never gave them a permit.
They came, though.
They came, but they didn't have a permit. But what happened is...
Did you arrest them?
No, because they didn't do anything threatening. And that's my point. You just hit the point that I was getting at, Ewell. We never intended to arrest them, but we were evaluating whether or not, depending on... And there's an inflammatory thing they put out on Tuesday, the 19th of April, and it enlarged the scope of who they were inviting to come to the event. So it went beyond just Shiite and Sharia and radicalism of Islam. It included... gratuitously, Minister Louis Farrakhan and the national representatives of the organization. It included Obama, interestingly enough. Anybody who wanted to make sure. No, you're not saying, I don't care about content. Content is never the issue. It's how many people are going to show up in a site that can't support them, and what's the result. I mean, you can say you don't care if he inflames people to harm. I'm the mayor. I can't let anybody be harmed in my city if I can prevent it.
He didn't say that. Charlie didn't say that.
He doesn't say if he inflamed people to action.
Look, the Supreme Court is clear. If there's an imminent threat and the ability to carry it out, if you incite somebody in that circumstance, but just talking badly about some person or cause or religion or whatever is not a violation of any law. And that document that you have simply shows that he has an expanded message, all stupid ideas, but it doesn't contain any threat of violence towards any person or towards the property of any person. So what's wrong with that?
Nothing.
Why does that?
And you're making my case. When Westboro showed up, they didn't get a permit. Did we do anything to them? No. Why? Because evaluating the situation that was on the ground, the real situation, we determined there was no threat to anybody. We let them go. They did their thing and they left. We didn't ever care about content. It was never the issue. Here, I didn't care about content. It was never the issue. The issue is safety, and that's what we were concerned about. So we never said he couldn't come. Never. But we said we have a better alternative.
Where's the safety issue? What threat did he make towards any person or towards the property of any person under the statute?
The safety issue, and I should have said, is not just safety, but the rights of others. We have 4 other churches there that actually asked me 2 weeks ago, should we cancel our Good Friday services because of this visit? And I said, no. We'll maintain that road open. We'll maintain that your congregations get to your churches for services. That was our goal. And so we're trying to evaluate the balance of what the right of Terry Jones was against the right of those property owners to have quiet enjoyment of their property, what they
so
own.
It's just a matter of how many cars go to the place? That's the criteria to speak in Dearborn?
That's mischaracterization of my words.
Why? Because Westboro is just as controversial for a lot of people as Jones is.
If enough cars come that people can't get to service, that's an issue for me. And if it's not for you, I can't help you. But
so if too many people showed up at the mosque, you would shut them down? If too many people showed up at the mosque, you would shut them down?
If the mosque violated violated other people's private parking, we'd have to deal with them and say you cannot do this.
You would shut them down.
We'd ticket the cars
Charlie,
and remove them.
Now, it also appeared in court as part of evidence in court today. It was also revealed that the city of Dearborn had also denied requests to 4 other groups.
3 other groups.
3 other groups.
Right.
And so it was not just Terry Jones singled out
right.
here. But now, outside of court today, there was some shouting.
Right.
Our reporters caught an exchange that was somewhat disturbing as some supporters of Terry Jones came outside of court. You may have seen it in early reports, people shouting and pointing fingers. Dawood, you saw some of this. Who were these people shouting at supporters of Terry Jones today? Do you know them?
Well, right there, what you're showing that clip, that's actually a peaceful rally that I was at, that I spoke at, along with Pastor Charles Williams II and a number of other people, but who were interfaith leaders, Christians, Muslims, Jews. But as far as in the courtroom, who was making the ruckus, and outside the police station, it was a group called BAM, by any means necessary, people who are not Dearbornites, not Arabs, nor Muslims, who are raising a ruckus, which goes back to my point. The Arab and Muslim communities in Dearborn and metropolitan Detroit, as far as handling this situation, have been overwhelmingly responsible, peaceful, and again, to go back to say, and Imam Kazmi, the Imam of the mosque, Islamic Center of America, said this: if Terry Jones would have come in front of that mosque, we would have let him go. We'd have said to him, peace, and we've gone about our way to our other functions, which we coordinated to divert people away from Terry Jones. I say this again, and regarding the prosecutor, I understand that the prosecutor had innocent intentions of trying to block a mischief maker from coming into our backyard, but at the same time, it did offend a lot of people in our community to try to equate the Dearborn Muslim community or Detroit Muslims with the actions of a few zealots that overreacted to Terry Jones. Because at the end of the day, if anyone, we are against the burning of the Torah, the Bible, the Quran, any sacred text. But if someone does that, it's a greater crime to try to hurt or kill a person because they burn a text.
Now, I wonder, some people have suggested that this is all simply a ploy by Reverend Terry Jones to make money. He has a small church, 30 members. They have all deserted him now. So he has no visible means of support. And yet he's able to get a first-class plane ticket here to Metro Detroit. He's able to stay in a hotel, rent a car, which he shot up last night. But how is he able to pay for this? How is he making his money?
Because public officials overreact to him. He is now a hero. He is now going to have more money coming into him than ever before. This was such a tactical mistake. Not only was it a violation of the First Amendment, but the fool was not allowed to be ignored and go away quietly. Now he's going to be some kind of hero. Although he did hurt his cause by cashing himself out and promising him not to go back. If he had any real guts or any real smarts, he would have stayed in jail for a couple of days. I think the Imam said it would have been wise for him to go to jail on
He could have come out on Sunday and he could have been like Jesus. And I think that this goes to show the insincerity of Pastor Jones and not paying that $1 bond. He came here with an agenda on Good Friday to try to paint the city of Dearborn to be like the Roman occupiers during the time of Jesus Christ in Palestine, and he's trying to use it to further his agenda that Dearborn is somehow a pro-Sharia city controlled by the Sharia, and that he was oppressed as a Christian. And believe me, and I'm saying this, I don't think this situation's over. I think it's going to brew up more trouble. I think the likes of the rabbi that was with him and others are going to come here to stir up stuff during the Arab American Festival and other times as we get closer to the anniversary of 9/11.
We have much more to talk about. We're going to get to that. More to come right here on Let It Rip. Right. Fireworks, though, last night after the Let It Rip show. The pastor, the imam, and the reverend. I know you've already heard about the gunshot after the show, but that was just part of it. We're going to take you behind the scenes to show you what really happened when the guests left the set. Stay with us sometimes on Let It Rip, but usually when it's over, we all shake hands and simply agree to disagree, talk again. But last night, the emotion on camera continued behind the scenes. This is what happened last night right after Let It Rip.
Absolutely nothing against, I mean, religious-wise, of course we do. We believe as a Christian that Jesus Christ is the only way, that the Bible is the only true word of God. We believe that Islam, of course, is the wrong religion.
But Jesus would have never done what you did.
As a religious person, of course, we believe our way is the only way, and that all Muslims are lost because they don't follow Jesus. But based upon the Constitution, which we respect, then of course we honor and respect your right to worship, to build mosques, to evangelize. That is absolutely no problem. That's not why we are here. We are here to exercise the First Amendment rights, and actually, First Amendment rights do not have nothing to do with agreement. See, First Amendment is only valid when I can say something you don't agree with. That's the only reason. That's the only reason it's valid.
Yeah, I do. First of all, we are all children of Abraham and Sarah.
So we're talking about First Amendment.
No, we're not. I don't worship the First Amendment, sir. I worship Jesus Christ.
That's what this is about.
Okay? No, it isn't about that.
That's what
it's about you saying something about Christianity that just isn't true, and you're saying it as a pastor, and so people believe that that's what Christianity actually is about.
Everything I just said was absolutely correct, of course.
No, of course it isn't correct.
No,
I got one question.
It isn't correct.
I want to ask Pastor Jones one question. Because his Jesus is a prophet.
My Jesus
Your
isn't
Jesus
the same
is
as
the
his
Son of
Jesus.
God, right?
My Jesus is, yes, my Jesus is
well,
the Son
his
of
Jesus is not the Son of
much
God.
fruit. If you'd like to ask me something,
I
I'll
want to
ask
ask one question.
My Jesus isn't the same as his Jesus.
You compared yourself to Martin Luther King.
Yeah, that of course was wrong too. I did not.
Okay.
I compared the situation. Martin Luther King started a movement.
Okay, but let me ask you one question. Martin Luther King.
That movement, people died.
Martin Luther
but nobody would go to Martin Luther King and say, "You're guilty, you're guilty, you're guilty," because people died. That was the point.
My question was to you is this:
in a nonviolent movement?
Martin Luther King was willing to die for his cause.
Yes.
Are you willing to die for your cause?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you're willing to die for your cause, I think you're demonstrating in the wrong place at the Islamic Center, before the Islamic Center, because there are no radical elements.
That is fine.
I will commend you if you fly and go to Afghanistan and protest there.
Yeah, that is fine.
And show the world your bravery.
That is your
Willing to
opinion.
die and wanting to die are two different things.
That is your opinion, but we still have the right to demonstrate it. That's what it's
No
about.
one is questioning your right. No one is questioning your right, Pastor.
We're going to wrap it up.
Oh, that's brave enough.
And look, just minutes after that, Pastor Jones not only let it rip, he shot it up. He accidentally fired his gun in the parking lot. Now, Fox 2 has a no weapons policy, big sign on the station, so Jones left his gun inside his rental car. But as he was leaving, he reached for the gun, and the weapon went off inside the car. The gunshot put a hole in the floorboard. Nobody was hurt. Southfield police were already at the station, both inside and out, to ensure that everyone is safe and was safe. Hats off to Southfield police, but look at that. It creates a dangerous situation needlessly, but all of that could have been avoided by simply letting him speak. In fact, the weather would have played the perfect part. It was raining, it was cold today. I don't think he'd have much of a crowd.
Although the gun incident was before he would have spoken, so they wouldn't have prevented that.
I think there's another problem. I think people in the rest of the world, in the Arab world, the Muslim world, were rightly incensed when he burned the Quran. And now we have this contradiction that we have stopped him when he was going to speak, but yet nobody stopped him when he was going to burn the Quran. And so when we talk about the First Amendment, it is now a mixed message that people out there just can't understand, that it seemed like, okay, it was somehow the lack of government response had to do with their First Amendment, but yet in another state at another time they could stop him speaking. I don't think you ever want to look at it. I mean, I think it's possible to use the blunt power of government to stop people from speaking, but whenever you got to do that, you got to realize that there are consequences. I don't think that the prosecutor looked at this correctly. I think that the judge missed it, and I think, Mayor, I think that by you allowing this to go forward, even though you say that you're not really in line with the prosecutor, I think that you could have put a stop to it.
I have no control over it. You're a former prosecutor. If they decide to take an action, they don't come to the local mayor and say, can we or can't we do that? And the other thing on the burning the Quran, the thing is there was no advance notice. Everybody learned about that after the fact, considerably after the fact. Now, not saying that would change anything, but the dynamic here is, one, we knew ahead of time what he was planning to do. There, the public knowledge of it occurred after the fact. That's a big difference.
Now, in court today, to his defense, Terry Jones made an important point. He said that, indeed, there is no book worth 1,000 lives.
Right.
If some Muslim had burned a Bible, he would pray for that Muslim, maybe be mad at that Muslim, but he would not threaten to kill that Muslim.
And in regards to when he burned the Quran, that situation took place in Afghanistan was about 2 weeks afterwards, but not one imam in America or any of the major Muslim organizations, including CARE, made a statement or issued anything regarding. We ignored what Terry Jones did, and everyone in the Islamic Center of America, everyone in Dearborn knew he burned that Quran, and no one was talking about wanting to go kill Terry Jones, or we weren't doing sermons about or putting out statements. So I say it again, I do think that it was a misrepresentation of our community that is overwhelmingly peaceful, law-abiding. I say it again, that somehow his life would have been in imminent danger if he just would have stood in that little grassy knoll area for about a half an hour.
Did you contact the mayor? Did you have a meeting with the mayor or try to convince the mayor or the people in Dearborn, the police chief, for example, to allow Terry Jones?
We had a lot of meetings, Charlie. We met on a regular basis, and we met, you know, with all different, with the mosque itself, with different religious leaders. So we had a lot of meetings in advance of this, talking about, you know, what we should do, how we should do it. At no point were we saying he shouldn't come, nor were we concerned about content, but we were trying to just think about the logistics of safety and how to protect everyone, including him.
So your position really is that he can come to Dearborn, but not in front of the mosque.
Well,
anywhere else,
only if he can occupy that space in front of the mosque successfully without violating anyone else's rights or causing any harm. Because again, once he starts filling up the parking lot of another facility that's a privately owned, private place, once he obstructs the right of people to practice their faith on Good Friday, which is a major issue and a major concern expressed, and we have that in writing from all those churches. They expressed that concern early on, and they didn't want to be denied their services. So that's another issue.
We don't know that until it happens.
Well, and you're exactly right. So we were trying to figure out how do we deal with it.
Attorney?
So you're saying that if he limited the number of people at 20, would you have said a permit would be okay in that circumstance?
If we thought that limitation would be achieved, we were considering. I mean, we have to understand that the permits were filed weeks ahead. As of the time that this document was submitted by them out on Facebook, we were actively considering whether or not we grant that permit. And it was about, could we manage that site? And we had a lot of logistical, strategic meetings about how could they fit on that site without impeding Alter Road and the other things.
See, I think you're on stronger legal ground if you're talking about that access, that kind of traffic problem, right. But you could limit it. But I'm wondering, how did the prosecutor then run away with this? I mean, if I had a mayor from one of my cities in Macomb County saying, we don't want you to do that, I would certainly listen to that.
Well, you know what? You'll have the chance again because he's coming back next week.
Terry Jones, if you're watching, please stay in Florida, Terry Jones.
He said all along he'll be back Saturday.
Work on getting some members in your church, Terry Jones. We all know they left. Stay down in Florida, please.
And that may be the case. Stay with us. Much more to come here on Let It Rip. Yeah. Charlie, you've been at the courthouse all day. A perfect chance to take Let It Rip on the road.
We did. We took Let It Rip on the road. When Terry Jones was sentenced, the judge said, hey, if you don't put up your $1, you have to go to jail. So I wanted to find out, should Terry Jones be in jail? Is that a good thing? Here's what we found out. Should Reverend Jones be in jail?
I don't think he should be in jail because he's just expressing his opinion.
It's a sad situation. I think maybe he needs some health care.
He brought us all together, and now we're all waiting for him to come out so we can tell him thank you for doing this.
Blame the media for giving him all this attention? Be honest.
Actually, yeah, because they do cover it. They do. Be honest. Yeah, they do.
I believe in the Quran and Jesus and all of them in the Quran. Why he not read it before he burned it?
So if he read it, then it's okay to burn it?
Why he not read it first?
Our community here is overwhelmingly peaceful. We're overwhelmingly law-abiding.
You would accept Reverend Jones's speech, even though you disagree with the message, right?
All of our imams have no problem with him or anyone else protesting against Islam, although we would not agree.
Radical Islam, not Islam, just radical Islam. That's what he said. It's not my words, it's his.
Let me backtrack.
You would protest against radical Islam too, wouldn't you?
Well, I don't use that terminology. We protest against any terrorist, be they Christian, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, whoever.
Do you think Jones has enough influence to bring on a Holocaust, really?
Oh, I don't understand why you're not clear on my metaphors. You pick up on a word and then make it into something more extreme.
He has no right to organize against the Muslim community, to organize for racism, to organize against everything that we've been building in Southeast Michigan in terms of a real student movement fighting against the cutbacks that are happening in the Detroit schools. We're an organization that's going to be there, and we're going to.
You think his message has something to do with the Detroit public schools?
I think absolutely.
He needs to go back home and get some prayer.
Honestly, I would have paid his bond, but I didn't have change for a 20 for $2. I didn't have $2.
Bail him up with any change.
You know what? I think he had $1, Mr. Mayor. You found out that he's been raising money online.
Well, Hugh, on that thing he put out on Facebook on the Tuesday, there's a section that has asking for donations, and he takes 5 different credit cards, so you can donate by credit card, and he actually encourages you to partner up with Stand Up America by making monthly donations. Donate here.
Why don't you give him the number? Give him the number real quick. Just kidding.
All right, so he's coming back, Carl Marlingo. What should we do with him?
I think you should hear him talk. You find out that he doesn't know what he's talking about, and he would quickly be over. I think the more that you try to stop him from talking, the more publicity he gets. Homer Simpson, I think, can outsmart him in most things, and so if you just let him talk, people will find that out.
Dude?
He's incoherent. Let him howl in the wind.
And Mr. Mayor.
Again, we're going to let him do whatever he wants until it begins to impact others in a way that we think is we have to balance that. And I can't tell you at any time what we're going to do until he does what he's going to do.
So we may see him standing on the sidewalk. We may see him speaking. But when and where he's arrested, you'll determine how.
By the facts. I mean, every arrest. There isn't one law enforcement officer that doesn't have the field decision to look at.
Log away at myfoxdetroit.com. That's it for this special edition of Let It Rip.
Let It Rip discussion continues online. Sound off with your opinion on myfoxdetroit.com, the Fox 2 Facebook fan page, or Twitter. We might even use your comments on the air.
Are you prepared to post the $1, Mr. Jones? Pursuant to the statute made and provided, you are therefore committed to the county jail until you make your bail.
An astonishing day in court as controversial pastor Terry Jones is ordered to jail before he's committed any crime. Was it a ruling to prevent a riot or a judicial assault on the First Amendment?
Fox 2 News Edge at 11 starts now.
$1. That was the price of freedom for Pastor Terry Jones tonight. So how did it come to that? It started this morning with a very unusual trial under an obscure law from the 1800s. Pastor Terry Jones and his associate, Wayne Sapp, were put on trial to determine if their planned protest in front of the Islamic Center of America would breach the peace. And if so, he'd have to post a peace bond to pay for the extra police protection. Well, after an all-day hearing, evidence, closing arguments, the jury finally came back with the verdict. And yes, the pastor would have to pay that bond. But then the judge threw everyone for a loop.
The bond for each gentleman will be in the sum of $1, cash or surety, to be posted with this court. As an additional condition to the bond, Mr. Sapp and Mr. Jones are not to enter upon the premises of the Islamic Center or the property immediately adjacent thereto for a period of 3 years.
Of course, initially, Jones and Sapp refused to pay that $1 bond each. They were then carted off to jail, but they ended up paying the money a little later and were released. Jones and Sapp then took off to an undisclosed location and did not carry out their protest tonight, but they could be back. Right now, Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy issued this statement on the jury's verdict and the judge's ruling. She says, quote, "These proceedings were solely about public safety. This was never about prohibiting free speech or fearing rioting, but about a situation that could potentially place the public in danger in Dearborn. I will continue to take stands to be proactive in keeping Wayne County safe." And although the pastor's protest did not take place outside the mosque, there was some action on Alta Road. Fox 2's Ron Savage was there. Ron.
The crowd showed here in Dearborn to see if Pastor Terry Jones would appear as he promised. They held a sign showing the faces of America A crowd that peaked at over 200 stands guard in front of the Islamic Center of America on Ford Road in Dearborn. This demonstration was peaceful for the most part. There was one confrontation. This man spoke out in favor of free speech. The crowd quickly turned on him. There was some pushing and shoving. I did not see any punches. The man was placed in the back of a Dearborn police cruiser. It was not clear if in fact he was arrested or simply removed for his own safety. One woman said that Pastor Terry Jones planned to exercise free speech. She said that that must be prohibited in this case.
Anybody that would argue that, then I would just like to say, then can I run into any building and scream any word that would cause chaos and say free speech? Yes. And we can't do that.
I think he doesn't have any right to come to Michigan voicing his division among the people. We are one here, so he should stay in Florida.
So no sign of Pastor Terry Jones at the Islamic Center of America. A peaceful day with the demonstration that we saw here in Dearborn. Ron Savage, Fox 2 News.